Okay, let's go ahead and begin this evening's meeting of the Muskogee City Council, June 22nd, 2015. If you would join us, I will do the invocation and the flag salute for us. Bow with me as we pray. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to get together tonight to do business in this city, that we would do business, Lord, in a way that would bring honor and glory to your name. Father, that you would find favor with what we do and that you would find favor in us as a city, that you would provide that leading, that you'd light our path in the way that you want us to go. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the flag salute. Kitchen. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, I was going to give you an update. My grandson's game was in, I don't know what inning, but I think it was in the third inning, and they were behind, so the Cubs were losing, by the way. Roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
I am present.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Leanne Langston.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
We're accounted for. Okay, we'll now consider the minutes of June 8th meeting and June 11th. And again, both of those are special calls. Is there additions or corrections to those? If not, we'll entertain a motion for both of them together if that's your pleasure.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Consent agenda. Is there anyone items number 1 through 15 that anyone would like to move to regular agenda? Otherwise, we'll consider a motion regarding the consent agenda.
Move for
Move for approval.
second.
You guys are going to have to get coordinated, aren't you?
Yeah.
You got a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Item carries. Sorry, let me get to my right place on the page. We'll now go to the regular agenda. Some folks have signed up to speak to various things. We have a number of people that have signed up, maybe 10 or something. So I want to ask you if you all, if more than one person has signed up to speak on the same subject, and it's not necessarily for us to hear the same thing over and over again, but if you would give some thought to that we could condense those comments as much as possible, I would certainly appreciate it. We are probably looking at an agenda that could take us to 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. Item number 16.
Consider approval of a resolution adopting an amendment to Appendix A of the Muskogee City Code pertaining to schedule of fees and charges per attached list, amending the water and sewer rate charges for base rate per unit rate for inside and outside customers, amending the refuge collection rate charges for residential and commercial polycarts and commercial dumpsters for inside and outside customers, amending the impervious surface fees for all users, establishing future increases on all rates in accordance with the Consumer Price Index, all urban consumers for Region 6, Dallas-Fort Worth, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Brown, this is your item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. We have, I guess last year we started looking at water, wastewater, and sanitation and storm water fee rates, and we retained a company called Wildan Associates from Florida. They came in, they analyzed our books, they looked at our operations, and have determined that there's an increase that they're recommending of about 24%. We've met a couple of times on it as a board, and we have had the consultant come in and update you and brief you on the state of those rates. We have also had them come in and do a presentation several months ago, and so we took no action at that time. However, this item is a companion item of the budget and is needed to actually be voted on with respect to the budget. The rates are 24% for water and sewer, 8% for stormwater, and $1 for sanitation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Tucker or Mr. Brown, where are we with regard to the ordinance that Councilor Gully had discussed about making certain that we exclusively use this fund going forward for water repairs or water incidents?
Yes, we looked at having an ordinance, and having that requirement imposed will create an issue with respect to how the funds are put together. What we have done is to ensure how we spend the money going forward. I'd like to come back to you, in 90 days is what I spoke with the mayor and a couple of others on coming back with a plan on how to pay for all those improvements over the next 5 to 10 years. I think I stated January 2016, but I plan to come back in 90 days with a draft for your review and approval.
Other comments or questions?
So, Mr. Brown, I assume that when you say you're going to come back with a plan in 90 days, that you think you'll be able to unmingle those funds and give us a plan on how to start putting money back for these things?
Right. Well, no. To come back with a plan to show you how we're going to pay for all those improvements over the next 5 years.
Okay. But you think that's something that's doable? It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
going to take some time and
Yeah,
research
well,
to do?
yeah, it is, because the way the funds are, they've traditionally been set up, they've been commingled, and so what it'll take is for us to actually sit down and go through and separate out how to pay for those improvements, and we'll be doing that in the next 90 days, come back to you with that information.
Okay.
And we'll have some idea how those funds are going to be spent, correct?
Yes, sir. Wilden did a pretty good job at working with the city staff to determine what were the most important issues. So we'll come back. I think the raw water line replacement was an issue. We think that we may not have to spend the money other than to evaluate the actual line, because it may have some more years left on it, but we need to do an engineering evaluation first before we go out and spend the money, so.
Okay.
Well, as like has been expressed by other council, it's very important. We done a study, and now we know what it cost us on our water side. We know what some of our improvements are going to be costing us, but it's very important that as we've asked, our community to make this investment in supporting our water and sewer lines and our rates, that we as council do our just cause of making sure that this funding structure is put in place where it is spent wisely in this area. We do know that the 2015 budget, it's not possible for that to happen because the funds are mingled together. But as we are asking our citizens to step up to the plate this year and make sure that it takes place, I would ask that as we move forward, that we know that we're going to have to make tough decisions this year to make sure in this budget that we're making tough decisions too, to make sure that we're doing hard cuts too.
Now, I do have one more question about item 16. In this, when we vote on this, is there automatic raises in there, or do we got to come back and whether it's this city council, some new city council, are they going to have to come back and vote on it every year after this?
The way the item is drafted, we are adopting Wildan's structure, which was the 24, 8, and 8, 8, or whatever that scenario was, is what I recall.
Was it 5?
I thought it was 5, 5, and 5.
24, 5.
Whatever's in their plan. I'm telling you the first year is 24%, but whatever that is.
Okay. I just want to make sure that that's in there, because I want to make sure that we stay ahead of this and not fall behind again and rely on it not to be updated from year to year.
Are you referring to a cost of living adjustment that would be in there that would
Yes.
escalate it each year?
That is
Yes.
in there.
Okay, that's what I was wanting to make sure.
And I also want to express my appreciation to staff, to Pam and others that put together the flyer that will be going out. I had expressed that we needed to inform our public, and we all received the insert that would be going out. And I know other council had asked for it to be where you would see what your current bill is and how it could be adjusted. And I thought, that does make more sense. But as it was explained to me this evening, that could be also misleading too. And so I really trust staff that they're going to be responding to all the questions and concerns that it's going to be, and it's still going to be a confusing process. But I appreciate staff for trying to inform our public as much as they possibly can of what impact this is going to be on them.
When will those be going out?
They'll go to the printer tomorrow, and they'll start going out next week.
Okay, great.
And we'll be able to catch all cycles before August 1st.
Awesome. Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion further? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, passes unanimously. Item 17.
Consider approval of a resolution approving the City of Muskogee, Oklahoma budget for fiscal year 2015-2016 and establishing budget amendment authority or take other necessary action.
Mr. Brown, this is your item as well.
Just give me a minute for the short people, Mayor, so I can adjust this.
I think just pull up on the whole arm.
Well, I talk low, and that's one of those criticisms you guys give me. Thank you very much, Chris. Am I coming in loud and clear, Mayor?
Hey, we got
Okay.
you.
Well, thank you, Mayor and council members. As you know, this has been my third presentation on the budget. We've gone down this road here the last few months, and I think that we are much closer than what we were several weeks ago. There are about 459 positions in the city. This is just a snapshot by department or function of how many positions we have in the city. There are 459 positions. There are 27 part-time and 88 temps. And I know that the council enjoys looking at how many vacant positions we have in the city. This is a listing of all our vacant positions right now and a status of where they're at in the process of either actually being hired, modified hiring, or we're accepting applications or in process of being actually hired. This is the organizational chart for the city that's effective August 11th of 2014. As you know, when we adopt the reorganizational plan, we adopted this reorganizational chart by operation of adopting that ordinance. And what's going on here? Accomplishments. We're going to go through. We're going to talk about some of the challenges, some of our financial goals, our budgeted funds, revenues, and capital outlay. And I'll move through quickly. So we got a long night. General fund department operating expenditures went down about $429,000. I just want you to know that in my budget meetings with the departments, they have been very helpful in bringing back what I call targeted cuts, where the departments, they decide on what gets cut in the department. So the department spending has actually gone down, and which, I like to say that was part of that, but those guys did a good job for us. They're looking out for the city. They're spending within their budgets. Even with fleet department, they were able to operate within a $2.2 million budget, as opposed to what we anticipated their current year budget would be bigger than what it is. We implemented Phase 1A of the urban renewal plan, including the development of a 102,000 square foot shopping center. As you know, our city attorney's office has been very active working on that special assignment, and thank you very much. And he's going to continue to lead the way and help us there so we can get things to happen there on Shawnee. We've been working closely with the property owners with the acquisition of 3 Corners. The mayor's been very involved with that one as well. And a lot of things are happening here in Muskogee. Ellie Street Detention Project, as you know, drainage project is well on its way. East Side Interceptor sewer improvements ongoing. 43rd and 45th Street, this is a private partnership with the Port Authority And as you know, we are working well with those guys and delivering these kind of services. So there will be some road improvements to service a couple of major employers in the city. I forgot Mortar and Grout. I think the name of, I can't remember the exact name of the business over there, but I know it's a major employer here in the city. Juvenile detention center relocation project is well underway with hopefully a date certain of completion of August 21st. I'm looking at Councilor Johnson because he's like, "Come on now, you know we've had rain." So we're hoping to pull the trigger on that around August 21st or so. So we're working through that with the contractor right now. AIM Gateway projects. Well, we were funded the AIM Gateway projects as of about 5:15 or so, or 5:30 p.m. today. The City Muskogee Foundation was gracious enough to allow us to continue our work with AIM, which they've given us bifurcated funding to fund those 6 AIM Gateway projects citywide. So that's happening right now. And so now we have funding, and we'll be in touch with DJ Thompson and her office to get things going. I know it's reimbursement. Okay. Wayfinding signage project. This is a project that I think the impetus came from the Chamber of Commerce. We've been working with the Chamber of Commerce, with Treasurer McKenzie and those guys. Gary's group has been, Gary Garvin, our planning director, his group has been working closely with them, along with Mike Stewart, I think, is also in Prague. Mahajan's been involved in that project as well. We are out to bid with that project, right, Gary?
We got the proposals back.
Okay, so proposals are back, and so we're going to finally have, nice wayfinding signs to get people to downtown, the airport, and other places around the city when they come off the major intersections or major corridors like 69 Highway and the Muskogee Turnpike area. Collection system evaluation rehab project. These are huge projects. These are projects that cost you money that you don't see. They're not the feel-good projects, but they are ones that are very mission-critical for our residents and definitely necessary. Martin Luther King Street Improvement Project has been somewhat delayed because of rain, but I'm told by our Public Works Director they're moving ahead. Waterline improvement, 24th Street South is underway with design, if I'm not mistaken. Martin Luther King Community Center, we are moving forward with plans for the Martin Luther King Community Center with a anticipated substantially completion date of March 21st or 22nd or something like that. Come on, Council. You know.
Say it's May now.
It's May.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking to the guy on the scene, he's still shooting for March.
We'll talk offline about it.
March and May.
Derek's shooting for January 1st.
I'm shooting for
FYI.
December. Yeah.
Well, it's probably because of rain. Is it delayed because of rain? Is that the issue?
Multitude of things, yeah.
Okay. All right. Skate park at Robinson Park. Yeah, it's definitely completed, and it's a good improvement to the park. That's all I'd say about that. We created the Retail Business Enterprise Department, of course, that is in its infancy stages. We are trying to fund that department. We are in desperate need of making sure that we are able to move down that road of getting this department off the ground. The Foundation 400, as discussed by staff, this is where the foundation has funded this project to demolish 400 buildings, Gary? Okay, I got it right. Okay. And the Housing Rehab and Revitalization Program, which is one of the council's biggest housing programs we have, that assist our residents in getting their houses rehabbed. First Responders Training Center, as you know, we broke ground back in May. Housing Incentive Program, right now, that is underway and fully funded, and funds already committed?
9. We have 9 applications.
Okay,
approved.
so we are 95% there, it looks like. One big thing that we did that we don't really talk about is the professional management of Love Hatbox. We retained Sports Facilities Management, who is doing a fantastic job out there. Looking at their financial performer over the last couple of months, I see an increase in funding, and they're over projecting. Well, they're actually above their original projections in terms of revenue. And so anyway, this represents a multi-year list of projects and things now. These are just the biggest ones I could think in my mind that we've done over the last fiscal year. So what are our challenges? Sales tax. Sales tax is our challenge. I think I mentioned, I said flat sales tax, but that wasn't true. It's really sales tax. We've had a increase, but it hasn't been very significant. Balancing the FY 2016 budget, completing the ODEQ sewer improvements, and external agency funding, and recruitments, police and RBE. How do we get here? Well, this happened last year. I'm sorry, this happened this fiscal year and last year. But if you look, there's about $400,000 in OG water revenue loss, which you're probably aware of by now. There's about a $300,000 ED fund increase and a 2% employee pay increase that we did of about $350,000. So it's about $1 million worth of expenses that we created over the fiscal year. And if you recall, back in January of 2015, when we finalized the union negotiation contracts with police and fire, that created another $875,000. So you're looking at about almost $2 million worth of expenses that were incurred in this fiscal year. So we did a lot of things, guys. We got a lot of city future items achieved, which is capping sick leave, long-term sick leave liability. That's a good thing for the city, and we were able to do that through this city council, and so it's worth it. Okay, sales tax breakdown. This first chart kind of tells you how the 4% is divvied out. We get 4% of the sales tax that comes into the city, and those are the ordinances. I got it listed by ordinance, the percentage, and the amount, or that's the projected amount, not the actual amount, and what the purpose and/or description of what that pays for. And so, if you look there, that's how the 4% gets divvied out. That second chart is just previous sales tax that were either approved by the voters or by the city council, and how taxes were apportioned. And external agency funding. Well, we have several external agencies that are funded currently. We are recommending that they be funded at its current level, with no decreases or increases. And this is just our sales tax general fund summary, and it tells you what we look like this year. And this is use tax collections. Use taxes are about the same. Well, we're actually up from last year, but they kind of move up and down. This is our water and sewer comparative analysis on what we collected last year versus previous year for water and sewer. This is our general fund revenue snapshot. It's about $32 million, and those are the funds. I know there was a question about the $107,000 that was captured in the general fund, and that's because of the adult juvenile program that Roy Tucker's office manages. It's in our general fund because he gets his money up front. It's not a reimbursement scenario or a draw request. This is what the total requests are and the actual amount of revenue that has come in our general fund, broken down by personal services and operations and maintenance. This is what our sales tax scenario is. For 2015, our sales tax is projected on about a 3% growth. As you know, we try to budget conservatively. We did 2%, but we felt like 3% would get us there. MMA?
That's general fund only,
General fund only,
not dedicated.
not dedicated.
That's not gross sales tax.
That's not gross sales tax. And this is the MMA snapshot. It's $12 million. And of course, these are just the meetings that we've had, as a city departmental meeting. Well, these are city departmental meetings, one-on-one meetings with the city council, and our group meetings together, talking about the budget. As you know, last year, the council required or requested that we meet quarterly to go over the financial state of the city. And this is our capital outlay request. The second column is the request from the department. The third column is the recommended capital outlay request that I'm recommending to you. I know there was a question about police, about a $75,000 expense that's being paid for in this budget year, not next budget year. You do see it on the next slide, and I'll show it to you, where they requested the $75,000. But it's being paid for this fiscal year, not next fiscal year. And I think one of the discussions we had in and some meetings was about the cemetery. Cemetery road improvements are going to be made in this fiscal year, not next fiscal year. And this is just a capital outlay request. It's our total capital outlay for the year. The 1.5 represents the carryover from the departments. So option one, of course, is to set aside funding for employee compensation at 2%. All employees suspend the transfer of the $300,000, reduce their employer contribution of the health insurance fund, and implement the Wildan utility rate study. And option two is to set aside funding for employee compensation 2%, reduce the general fund reserve requirement from 13 to 10, and implement the Wildan study. And there's option three that I didn't put on here, but I understand it. I've had staff review it, and it is amenable to staff if the city council chooses option three, which is set aside funding at 2% for all employees, reduce our cap our general fund reserve requirement to $3.2 million, and implement the Wildan rate study is what I understand the option three to be. And Councilor Coleman, I mean, he could definitely talk more about it. But subject to that, be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Then we have 3 people that have signed up to speak to this item. Would you like to hear that prior to our comments or questions, or following?
Nail's fine.
Right now? Teresa Rutlinger, you had spoken, you had signed up to speak to this item. You will have 5 minutes, ma'am, to speak to item number 17. Name and address, please.
Teresa Rutlinger, excuse me, Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. I'm extremely against taking any of the money from the employees' insurance. We are self-employed, not self-employed, self-insured, and we need to get it up to the recommended $3 million before we start doing anything along that line. And we definitely need to keep our promise and put 100% of the use tax money into the economic development. You're between
Teresa, speak up for you if you would, just a little.
I'm almost eating this.
Speak louder.
Pom-poms.
I don't have a real loud voice, sorry. Do you want me to start over? I've got plenty of
No,
time. Okay.
Speak louder and then everybody can hear you.
Okay. I know you're kind of between a rock and a hard place, but I think those are 2 things that definitely shouldn't be touched. I know Mr. Johnson voiced big concerns about doing the other option. Going from 13 to 10 or to 3.5 or whatever it was. I don't know if there's any possible way that it could be a one-time thing. And does it have to be put in as an ordinance in order to do it this year? Or as far as making it a 10% reduction instead of a 13%?
Ask me the first part of that again, Teresa.
Does it have to be an ordinance, or can it be we're just going to do it this year, and then that way it's not a setting a precedence type thing? I mean,
It has to be an ordinance modification because an ordinance is what established the 13 to 15% threshold.
All right then. But hopefully next year we can really keep a tight eye on this budget, and if we start wandering a little bit, maybe cut back on some of the stuff that, our spending, because this is a really horrible position for us to be in. And like I said, I don't envy you, and I don't have a solution other than keep your promise and keep the employee health insurance the way it is.
Stephen Ezell, thank you, Teresa. Stephen Ezell, you give us your name, your address, please. You'll have 5 minutes to speak to item number 17, the budget.
Yes, sir. Stephen Ezell, 6121 South 6th Street East. What I'm addressing this evening is something that some people might not want to hear, but I think needs to be heard. And I'd like to address the possibility of maybe one way to helping balance maybe some of our budget is the possible reduction of the salaries of certain senior members in this in the city government, mainly like, say, the salary of either, say, the city manager, the city clerk, or the city attorney. As I understand, if I recall correctly, Walt Beckham 7 years ago before he left was making about $75,000 per annum as far as the city, as far as the salary. Now, our current city manager, now don't get me wrong, he's doing an excellent job, and he's wanting to do some fine things for the city. He's making somewhere around $120,000 per annum. Now, for me personally, I think that for a city of our size, and with maybe kind of some of the issues we're having with our budget right now, I think that seems just a little bit excessive. Now, I may not walk out of this room in one piece for what I'm saying, but I feel it needs to be heard.
PD's here to protect you.
Also, another one thing to possibly consider in future years of a possible budget shortfall is, I know this may not want to be heard, but we may want to consider approaching the foundation for funds to supplement any years at which we may have a budget shortfall. Not years where our budget is even or surplus, but years which we may have a shortfall. And only those funds needed that are necessary to keep our city running. Now, if you reduce certain salaries, like in the senior officials, that could actually help in putting that money towards some projects that have an imminent and immediate need to be completed, such as our sewage, our streets, things of that nature. Again, I know it's not a popular thing to be heard, but usually what is necessary is not always popular. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Option number 4.
There you go. Option number 5, John. Former Mayor John Tyler Hammonds signed up to speak to item number 17.
John Tyler Hammonds, 3401 Canterbury, Muskogee, Oklahoma. As always, it's a privilege and a pleasure to address you. I have spoken to this issue before, and I will speak to it again tonight. Do not take money out of the Economic Development Fund, and we still have economic development needs which need to be funded. We do not need to take money out of this investment just yet. We still have other needs which can be funded and should be funded by this source. As Councilman Gully talked about last week, downtown development is in need of funding, something this fund can go to. We have sufficient revenues other places to fund general operations. We still need to make those investments. Industrial development is receiving almost $600,000. Retail development is receiving over $200,000, and yet downtown development is receiving only $30,000. We told the people when we did the AIM visioning study and we asked them what was important, and they said downtown. We've not listened to them and said we will put our money where our mouth is. Let's put the money that would otherwise be going to economic development into downtown, and let's revitalize our downtown. Let's save it and let's bring it back. We can still do it. It just takes an investment. The foundation has said they will step up and fund some investments. Now it's our time to step up and fund the infrastructure of the downtown office. This is what this ordinance was supposed to do. We were promised to the voters we would set aside $1.2 million every single year to fund economic development forever. Not a one-time delay, not a two-time delay. We said forever. Let us keep that promise. We still have other economic development needs which can be funded out of the purpose of this fund. I encourage you to do that tonight. I know we said we want to keep external agency funding stable. I understand the need for that, but the Economic Development Fund does not affect the rest of the general fund. Increasing funding to downtown does not reduce funding for streets. It does not reduce funding for employee pay raises. It just improves a vital portion of the Muskogee economy. People from all over from this area shop in Muskogee, and they often shop downtown. Let's show them we mean business in Muskogee and invest there as well. Let us stand up and make a difference. Retail development is on the way. Industrial development is on the way. It's now downtown's turn. This money is available for that purpose. I encourage you to do that. And again, as reminding about the purpose of this ordinance, it only sets aside $1.2 million. The Economic Development Fund only comes $1.2 million from the use tax. Based upon the city manager's projections, you will collect $1.6 million in use tax. That leaves $400,000 available to the rest of the budget. There is no need to take from this fund. By keeping the money in the fund and allocating it to its intended purpose, Muskogee can reap the benefits. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Now for council discussion, that's the three people that had signed up to speak.
Well, I'm most definitely not for getting into the insurance program or the plan, follow plan number one. I would much rather get into go towards two. I wasn't here last week, so I'm a little bit behind some of you guys. Would love to hear more about what Mr. Johnson had to say and about Plan 2 and the plan that's going away.
Well, my concern is, we talk about ordinances and we talk about responsibility to the taxpayers. I'll have to go back to an old saying, don't borrow from Peter to pay Paul. And that's exactly what I think we're doing when we're changing an ordinance, and we are, with this budget, we're taking an ordinance and we are going in to set aside fixed funds. Last 4 years, we've been going into fund balance. You cannot continue to go into fund balance. We have got to change that around, and we've got to spend within our means. And by any doubt, that means that we've got to make some cuts. I don't want to do it, and we've worked diligent, and I will say with the employees' health insurance, a number of us were here late nights, and the employee health insurance fund, it was 800 and something in the hole. And now it is in the positive. We do not want to see that go the opposite way. But if it does, that's what fund reserve is for. But I don't think you go in fund reserve first. I think that's what fund reserve is for. Mr. Gully made a great statement that, because my concern is if we did have a disaster, that fund reserve would be, that's what fund reserve is for. Mr. Gully did have a great point that there is, we're a very fortunate community that we do have the foundation that would be that safety net for our foundation, for our community, because FEMA is a long payback period in a disaster zone like an ice storm or like a tornado. But you know what? We will never make the changes in our community to our employee benefits in salary or to changes as long as we're spending fund balance. We're going to go right back where we've always been as long as we're spending fund balance. And I believe we have to live within our means. And I hate it's 9th hour that we can't go through all the budget, but I think it's time that we live within our means. So that's where I'm at. We have to live within our means and not change the ordinance that we're going in to set aside reserve funds. It's time, and even with that, we're still below, but we don't change an ordinance where we're going into set aside fund balance.
Are we talking that we just leave it at 13%, or
Yep.
are you agreeable to move it down to 10?
No.
Okay, I'm just making sure I've got
Yeah.
some clarity on that side of it.
I'd like to ask,
Good.
Reverend Coleman to give us a brief outline of option 3. My understanding is that it accomplishes some of the things that I want, and that is to keep the money in the insurance fund and also not transfer out of the economic development fund. My understanding is it does not go into the percentages, so we don't have to change the ordinance. Is that correct? Or
No, we'll have to make a modification.
still have to,
for
okay,
that.
make a modification, but that it doesn't take it all the way down to the 10%? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. The option 3 that I presented primarily addressed the formula by which we arrive at the restricted reserve. Instead of using a percentage, to use a set dollar amount, because when you use a percentage, you have to apply it across certain parts of the budget. And when you do that, it doesn't give us access to the funds that may be in surplus that we need that could help us avoid using the Economic Development Fund money, and that would also prevent us from having to go into the Employee Health Insurance Fund. And so if we were to use a set dollar amount versus a percentage, we still would have what staff has said would be a healthy restricted reserve in terms of it being $3.2 million or 3.5. I'm not
3.5.
3.5, which for a city our size would be a healthy reserve. It still gives us a reserve, but what it also does by using a dollar amount instead of a percentage is it takes away the stress of having to find money in other places, because it frees up the 13% of funds that would have gone completely into the 24% for the water rate increase. That 13% would go directly into the restricted reserve, and we wouldn't have access to it at all. And if we did it that way, of course, we'd still have to look at other ways to try to put our hands on funds. And I just think a dollar amount versus a percentage is a better way to go, because it relieves us from having to seek funds from other places that are not as palatable.
And so there's a 0.3 million difference between yours and option 2, is that correct?
All total,
3.2?
all total without the money that's used every year for vacancies, it came to about $1,200,000.
You're
Or
including
$1,020,000.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Other comments or discussion?
So are we looking for a motion to accept the budget with, using option 3?
I don't know if we're looking for that or not. We're looking for the discussion that gets
For the
us to
discussion?
some consensus to
All right.
vote on something.
Because I'm prepared to make that motion to accept the budget with using option 3.
I'll second that.
Okay, give me bullet points on option 3, because it looks to me like option 3 is the same thing as option 2. You're just trading the percentage for the dollars.
Yes, sir.
And that's the biggest difference, because the percentage formula takes away our ability to have access to funds without going into the water rate increase.
So, Mr. Coleman, if I took 2 and I marked out 13 to 10% and put in there 3.5 million,
0.5.
Yes.
in essence, I have it right there in one 3 bullet point item, correct?
Yes.
3.5.
Okay.
Is it 3.5?
Yes.
Just as long as they got it right.
And again, all it is a formula adjustment.
Which is about 10% of the general fund now,
Yeah.
the 3.5 is.
Right. Here's some things that don't click to me, and maybe I didn't get this one answered, and I probably should have before we got here tonight. If I look at page 11 of the draft copy that was sent out to us, the city's largest fund is the general fund, representing approximately $32 million of total revenue, which represents 7.5% increase in revenue when compared to the fiscal year 2014-2015. How can we go up 7.5% in revenue in general fund and still have a shortfall? Is that our operating costs have far exceeded the cost of living?
No. Gene, can you
Part of the increase in the revenues is from the water and
Right.
sewer rate. We budgeted 3% increase for sales taxes.
Right.
And took into consideration what we think we're going to get from the URA. And the reason, and I think the manager showed it in his slide, is that we have been spending out of our surplus.
Right.
We have been spending more than we've been bringing in for 3 years. And
Mid-year
so,
2011, is it?
yes. So that's a lot of it.
Okay.
Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, and I think the water revenue is probably the
Yeah.
bulk of it,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you took that source out. Here is the other thing that causes me concern. I'm not sure this is all of them, but this is one of the other things that causes me concern. we continue to not address employee compensation. And I have sat here now for 3.5 years and been through 2 or 3 budgets. 3 budgets, I guess, maybe. This may be the 4th. And here's my concern. And I had told this to Howard, mentioned this to him a year ago, and I made this over the last month. I've told him 2 or 3 times, and he's probably getting tired of hearing it. Until we address in some fashion to address our employee pay, I'm not going to vote in favor of another budget. And I know that's kind of a hardline stance, and that's probably not going to be a very popular stance with anybody sitting here. But until I see a strategic plan that says, here's what has to happen for us to make those adjustments in employee compensation to get us where we need to be, then I've got a problem just continuing to adopt the budget and continuing to have a capital outlay budget and, you know, create a department and or two, and then we still are not going back to the thing we started with and we said at our budget planning retreat. This is our #1 priority. Well, I got a memo today at 4 o'clock that says that that can be addressed in terms of a plan being put together for that, and that can happen between now and October the 1st. I would vote in favor of a budget, but I'll only vote in favor of a budget with the contingency that we see that plan in full detail by October the 15th. And what that's going to involve is that it's going to determine that we've got to have $135 million in additional retail sales in this community strategically for that to happen, for us to have a $3 million impact in our budget. And for that to happen, it's going to take some pretty creative thinking. It is going to take a lot of dedication, and we need all 450-some employees with the city of Muskogee working toward that end to say, we're going to solve this problem once and for all, get there. So the only way I am willing to vote on a budget without voting against it is if it has that contingency in there and it has some teeth in it that says those additional revenues, however we determine them, those additional revenues each year over the past will be solely and wholly dedicated to employee compensation changes. So I can vote for an option 2 with the adjustment that Councilman Coleman is talking about, provided we put in a contingency that says we will develop a strategic plan to solve this problem.
So are you asking for an amendment to the motion that has a second?
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, I will amend my motion to include that.
How do we capture that, Roy, in terms of having it in writing?
I would have some.
I'm sorry, Roy. I think he meant option 3.
No, he did.
I did.
He did.
Oh,
I got that. I got
two?
that.
Yeah.
I meant
With the
option
changes, yeah.
2, I think, because option 2 is the one that addresses that we're not going to mess with, we're going to take care of employee compensation. No, maybe it's a combination. Maybe it is 3.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it-
3.
I'm not in favor of messing with the Economic Development Fund. I am not in favor of messing with health insurance. I am in favor of the 2% compensation. I am in favor of the West Band plan, and I am in favor of this recommendation
Okay.
for October the 1st. So is that a hybrid
15?
3A?
Yeah, a hybrid.
October 15th,
Hybrid.
Mayor's Day. What'd you say?
October 1 of 15.
Oh, I'm sorry.
October 1 of 15.
Okay. Well, I'll amend my motion.
I'll second it with the amendment.
Mr. Tucker finalizes that motion.
I have a couple of concerns if we adopt the budget subject to, because it's subject to a future event.
Okay.
That won't happen until October. So what I would suggest then is that the motion include the approval and direction for the creation of a strategic plan that must be brought forth for adoption no later than October 15th of 2015. And that would give you the teeth that you needed.
Say
Because
it again, please.
that would require the approval and direction of the creation of a strategic plan to address employee compensation to be brought forth to the City Council for adoption and for consideration no later than October 15th.
And a strategic plan for the water rates to be dedicated.
I think you've done that already on the
Okay.
resolution for Appendix A.
We're good.
So,
That's
Mike,
January.
Yeah,
I have a little question here. So October rolls around, we don't have that. Does that nullify the budget?
It would if you did it subject to, and that's what I was recommending
Okay,
against.
thank you. That's why we pay you so well.
So do I need to say so moved?
Why don't, let me, because there's a couple other things that may be appropriate to include in this
wait until it's typed out.
resolution. No, I think I've got it.
Keep us going, Mark.
So I think that it would be appropriate for a motion to approve the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget resolution, incorporating budget plan option 3, providing notice of intent to modify City Code 2-551 definitions and 2-552 restricted budget funds pursuant thereto, and directing the city attorney to prepare and bring forth an ordinance incorporating said modifications, and also approving and directing the creation of a strategic plan to address employee compensation to be brought back for consideration no later than October 15th, 2015.
Okay, do we need any definition of what would be in that plan? And the just chicken scratching that I had here was, and how to share that vision with the council, staff, and all employees.
I think the council has had that vision. We've been very vocal about that. And we have talked about that in all of our planning retreats, and
Right.
that has always been one of our goals.
I know it's the passion of everybody's heart sitting here. My concern is that we're not getting there. You know, I mean, we literally had this discussion 12 months ago and had some thoughts in line, but we're not even addressing it.
He's asking for us to get a plan and follow that plan and get us there, and not just, because we've all talked about, this is what our, like you said, our desire is. We just never sat down with a plan and said, this is how we're going to get to point B or Z. And I think that's a good strategy. I think we're going to have to do this a lot more as a city council to get what we want from our city.
I just pulled up the other day retail attractions webpage, information about Muskogee, and we spend $800 million as a market area outside of our market area. And we choose to spend less than $600 million in our market area.
Incredible.
We spend more money outside than we do inside, and we're doing it at the cost of the salary benefits of the employees and the operation of the city. We've got to change that. We have got to change that, and that's why I think it can be done. If there's $800 million in opportunity, we can surely get $135 million of that changed to shop in Muskogee with all the changes that are taking place, that it will continue to take place as we move forward.
So you so eloquently put down in words is what I was thinking. So moved.
A second.
We got a motion, we got a second. Do we have discussion further regarding the budget?
My concern is, we just approved item number 16 unanimously to put a 24% increase on the taxpayers of this community, and most of them live on fixed income. With that budget proposal, we're saying it don't apply to us. We'll just change the rules.
Say that again, Wayne, I didn't understand.
What I'm
you said.
saying is, we're increasing water revenues by 24%. Most
Right.
of them live on a fixed income, and it's going to put the hurt on them. With this move, we're not living within our means, and we're just going to change the rules. We're changing an ordinance and we're changing the rules where we don't have to live within our means as a city council.
Okay.
Don't they?
Mr. Tucker, correct me if I'm wrong, don't we have provisions for either seniors or those who have disabilities within the water rate structure?
Yes, that's correct. I don't know off the top of my head the amount of the discount, but there is a discount. Do you?
Pam, do you know?
There is a discount, but it is based on income, and so they have to meet the income requirements in order to qualify for a senior rate. And it only affects the first 2 units of water. If they go over that, they go right on to this fee schedule.
But we do have something.
We do.
Additional comments or questions? Additional comments? Last call. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
No.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Bear Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 18.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 74, Taxation, Article 12, Use Tax by amending Section 74-236, Dedication and Apportionment, providing for a 1-year delay of 100% apportionment of use tax into the Economic Development Fund, providing for repeal or severability and declaring an emergency, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Brown, I think we just answered this
Yeah,
item, but
I'll ask that
go
this-
ahead and address
Move
it.
to strike.
I'll ask this to be
Second.
struck, yeah.
Do we need to vote on the move to strike or just move
Yes.
forward?
It's appropriate.
Move to vote to strike, the motion is there to strike item 18.
Second.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Item number 19.
Discuss and take action on fiscal year 2015-2016 funding for the vacant position of Assistant Economic Development Director.
This is an item I'd ask to have put on the agenda, and I'd like to pass out to you a copy of a organizational chart. I just did council copies of it. Howard, you can share with me. Here's the concern that I have. We have, let me see if I read the right motion. Okay. On the organizational chart that I just passed out, you'll see Assistant Director of RBE, and I think that's the position that we're talking about. And my concern is this: we have created a department that we have just filled the position about 5 or 6 weeks ago. And my concern is this: we don't even have that program off the ground and running, and we're talking about adding another person to that position that we had previously created. I would like to see us not add that position, defund that position, whatever we call it, for at least 6 months, preferably for 12 months, until we get this position, till we get this department up and running and we get the transition into our existing potential of a consultant relationship working, and that we have a method of moving forward in an organized way regarding the retail development of the city. And I think that it's worthy of our consideration. Yes, the money is there, so to speak, but technically we're spending it out of our not our savings and loan account. We're spending it out of borrowed money from the bank in order to fund this position. And it's not just a matter of funding the position, which is about a $90,000 position. I have a huge concern about that, and I would like to see us have some discussion and then I'll consider coming forth with a motion regarding that item.
Well, again, I wasn't here last week when y'all got to discuss this here. But my concern right off the bat is we just struggled with the budget, trying to get raises fix raises for the employees and everything else, and trying to balance our budget and get everything out for this next year. If this money's there, shouldn't we have been using this money to help fund fix our budget on the other side? That's my biggest issue right now is I just can't see us funding another position right now when we just struggled to approve a budget. It just kind of defeats the purpose of what we just did. I just don't know. I mean, we got to watch our money. We got to watch how we spend it right now. And I wish we could do more. I wish we could do this. I just can't. I can't see how we can reach this point.
We previously approved this, the organizational chart that included this on here. And there is another item on tonight's agenda that it will be addressing some additional economic development, primarily for the downtown area, that's been talked about and talked about and talked about. And I see that this could be utilized immensely. I think it's something we need to grow. So I'm not in favor of defunding the position at this point.
I agree with you, Ms. Langston, defunding it, because it's going to affect Ward 3, Derek, me and you, because we want some houses to come in Ward 3. We want more houses to come in Ward 3. Let me ask you, Mr. Brown, what's your opinion of this?
Well, this is a key position for the newly created Department of Retail Business Enterprise. Were you to defund this position, you'd be dooming the new department to failure, and along with it, greatly decreasing the chance for downtown development and new housing programs. These programs will not be administered properly if this position is defunded. I've had the opportunity in other communities to see and direct these type of departments, so I know firsthand how important it is. Any confusion surrounding the title, which was only used for advertising purposes, can be clarified as the working title, Business and Economic Coordinator. The position right now is funded out of Economic Development Fund. It is currently budgeted in the ED fund. We just approved an item to increase that to $300,000. This position, I think when you saw the title of assistant director, I think a lot of us up here looked at it and said, okay, this is another management position, but this is a program manager that deals with small business assistance program funding, facade improvement grant funds, and those kinds of things. This is not a director position that actually drinks coffee and sit in the office and has a secretary that answers the phone for him. So you would definitely be hurting this newly created department, and I would ask that you not take any action on this particular item.
Help me to get to the understanding. The retail business enterprise, as I see it, according to the organizational chart, manages the Civic Center and the theater contract or position as exists today, the airport, and the director of planning and economic development that has 25 plus years experience in his area. How can the retail business enterprise not take care of both positions for a period of time, and then we bring in a second person if we determine that need is there?
I think that's a good question, Mayor. I've personally been the ED director, and when what is lacking and what would be lacking is what we call capacity, meaning that you can only juggle a workload. It's called cockpit workload. I mean, how many things can you do and actually manage properly and actually administer program? There are too many demands placed on the director of that department. They have to oversee the day-to-day operations of the airport, the planning department, as well as the Civic Center. And then they would have to be responsible for developing housing program, the loan assistance program, down payment assistance program, and those kinds of things. And I don't see that happening. Now, I just want to take your attention to last year, back in August 11th, when we adopted the reorganizational plan. I think it's important to note that at that time, we placed a sunrise date on that. We didn't say fill it right then. We said fill it January 2015. Earlier, I showed you a slide that talked about recruitment. We're having recruitment issues citywide. Police Department and RBE. It is difficult to find people that are qualified, certified, and have the skill set needed to actually do those jobs. And so we're hurting under this talent acquisition concept or dilemma that most cities face. All I'm asking is that you approve this position so we can move the city forward. We've had a lot of discussion on it, but at the same time, if the council goes another direction, you know, I'm duty bound to follow your direction, guys. But I don't want you to cripple this department, and I would hope that you.
I mean, looking at this, help me if I'm not catching something. Yeah. Is this position managing these three positions, and the other position that we'll talk about in just a moment, manages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different departments?
No,
It seems to be out of balance.
No,
to me.
this position only deals with the employees that's in the RBE department. If you recall, there were several.
I get that.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that part of it. I guess that's where my question's coming from. Other comments by council? We have someone that's signed up. Teresa Rutlinger has signed up to speak for this item as well. Teresa, would you come and give us your thoughts on this subject? Please, your name and address again, please.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. I'm of the opinion you hired this gentleman to kind of come in and start, you know, hit the ground running. You're going to tie his hands a little bit if you don't give him some help. If you decide not to give him help, I would say don't wait a year to get him some, you know, if you want him to get acclimated or whatever you think it's going to take, I don't think you should wait a year to have him get, you know, somebody to help him along this way. I think you should do it right now. It was budgeted for it. I realize that we're in a crunch, but, you know, everybody's saying economic development, retail development, downtown, you know, development. And this is one of the positions. And hopefully you'll get a good, you know, bang for your buck on this. If not, I think you've tied his hands. And he's not going to be able to show you what he can do as easily as if, you know, if he's in one-man show versus having somebody else that's got the expertise and helping him along also. Just leave the door open to revisit it in a few months if you do decide differently, but I advise you not to.
Thank you for your comments. Are there other comments from council?
After last week, I have concern about bringing somebody in until we gel as a staff.
What are the duties in this position that would negatively impact what some of Councilor Langston's concerns are and others regarding downtown and housing?
Well, I could just give you a couple examples of what the position would do. This position would manage the program for housing. Like, for example, right now, one of the areas that we're failing in terms of what we provide to our residents, there's no place that a person can come into City Hall and ask a question on how to get access to capital to open up a business in downtown or to get down payment assistance to actually go and build a house anywhere in the city, not just wards 3 or 4, guys, just anywhere in the city. And so this department does that. This department allows for a person here at City Hall that if a business owner, a small business owner comes into City Hall, they connect that person resources to get their business up and going. At the same time, it connects people who are trying to buy a home for first-time home, through first-time home buyers programs, through down payment assistance and those kinds of things. That's something that we don't do here at all in this city, that most cities do, and that's what this department is set up to do. And so that's the reason why I'm trying to provide information about the position, because I know it's new, and I would hope that you guys don't defund it so that we could see the fruits of this. And I think that it is significant enough and important enough for us to move forward on, and that would be what I want to say. But those are some duties that are illustrated.
I have a question. What kind of salary are you looking at?
It's not 90,000. I don't remember that.
I need a number because we're sitting here talking about numbers and a budget and getting a new guy.
Yeah, it's not 90,000, Counselor. If I can state it this way, what happens?
We're not going to get a number tonight, am I? I'm just going to be blunt. You're not going to give me a number, right? I'm not being rude.
And it could be a female too.
He.
If I can call the HR director and ask her what was the price for the salary range, would that be
Here
amenable
she
to
is.
you? Well, I don't want her to say anything until it's okay.
Well, I'd like to know kind of what I'm looking at here. If we're going to budget for something like this, I'd like to kind of know what I'm voting on.
Kelly, could you tell us what we're talking about here?
The Assistant Economic Development Director is a grade 51. It's about 50 to 80 range. Midpoint's about 63.
63.
Plus benefits and roll-ups.
And it's a position that we have to have today.
Yes.
Councilman Hall, like Mayor Colvin, I remember one day.
Hang on, can I ask one question?
Go ahead.
A while ago, and I'm not meaning this any derogatory, you mentioned a while ago it's about Ward 3. I think it's about our city as a whole and our employees as a whole. And I was going to address that, but I just can't let that slide. It's not about Ward 3. It's about our whole city as a whole. It's about our employees as a whole. It's about everybody that lives here and works here. I'm very interested in housing in Ward 3 as I am in housing in Ward 2, Ward 1, Ward 4. Still, to this point, am worried about funding. $60,000 doesn't seem like a lot unless you make $20,000. But every penny counts right now. And I've been on here for 3 years, and I'm ending my first term on here. And the reason why this bugs me so much is I've seen us add positions and add things to our city under the pretenses that we need them. We got to have them now. I need something more in depth. I need a plan that actually tells me what he's going to do other than he's going to be here to talk about, he's going to help people get housing. We do have people in our community that help people get housing. We have people that know how to fill out those grants. We have the HUD. We have everybody else, the housing authority, that takes care of people in our community. But at the same time, I don't know if this, and I don't want to say that we're tying someone's hands, but we're talking about a department that's in its infancy stage. And we've never had one of these departments, but we're adding a lot of top-heavy people to our city budget that I would like to kind of slow down and say, we've added some positions. It was mandatory that we hired Mr. Root as our economic development guy. I was all for that. I think we need to slow down and catch our breath a little bit on adding more positions to our city for the simple reason is we don't know what our budget's going to be. We don't know if this 24% is going to help us or if it's just going to just make us where we're even. Those are my concerns. I'm not wanting to stop housing in anybody's ward. I'm not wanting to stop the movement of our city. I think we've got a lot of momentum. My concern is as a city councilman is my job is to make sure that we have a balanced budget. We're not overspending that budget. And sometimes I feel like we're doing a lot of good things, but I'm not sure what it's costing us at the back end. Last year we gave a nice raise to some employees here. We're paying for it this year because it kind of hurt us a little bit, and it's costing, and we're having to balance some things and juggle some things. I don't want to see us get behind again just because we have to have someone's position right now. I'm not saying we shouldn't have it sometime. I'm just wanting to slow down a little bit and catch our breaths and enjoy being somewhere balanced right now. That's my concern. I just wanted to voice that.
So, Councilor Hall, am I hearing you correctly that you're not really concerned that it be defunded, but that we see some plan of action that would clearly define how this position would integrate into this department should we go forward with it?
Yes, I would love to see something. I think a lot of times in our city government, or our city, we say we have to have something, but we don't know why we need it. Or we don't tell, nobody actually says, they kind of give us a little, I guess, the cake. They give us the icing on the cake, but they don't really give us any substance with why we're doing it. And that bothers me, and that's why my concerns are.
Why could we not just table this for 2-3 months, readdress it, not defund it, and see where we are at that point?
I would make a motion that we request the manager to hold this position and the funding for 3 months.
I would second that.
Got a motion and a second?
Teresa's holding up. She had it filled out. I guess she didn't get it turned in.
Yes, ma'am.
I actually have the description of the Assistant Director of Economic Development that you put out.
We don't need that for right now.
If Mr. Hall needs to see it.
Yeah, we've already approved all those positions that I recall. Yeah, okay. Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. Is there a discussion regarding the motion of that for 3 months?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just for clarity, what does that do in terms of where we're at?
We're not going to hire for 3 months until we have time to see that department develop. And then we'll bring it back to council.
Well, I wasn't here when you all made this chart, but didn't you talk about having this position? And I wondered what had changed between now and back then.
A pretty squeaky tight budget for one thing.
Well, but we've fixed some of that. Seems to me.
I didn't feel real good last week. I don't know about you, but I didn't feel like we're working together as a team in our economic development. And I sure don't want to bring in another person at this time until we're working as a team. And I think to bring somebody in until we're working together as a team would not be wise at this time.
Well, we need to get to working as a team right quick.
Is that a directive?
I agree with that.
I'll second that.
Now we got 2 motions. We have 2 motions in 2 seconds.
Team?
We've got a motion and a second regarding funding or filling or whatever we would call that.
Okay.
Is there further discussion?
Still says the funding's there. And Mr. Hall, no, it's just not Ward 3. It's all over the city, like you said. And I hope you keep that thought in your mind. It's all about the city, all the city, not just my ward or your ward. It's all about all the city. Okay? But like I say, they hired Mr. Root. We hired Mr. Root to come in here and do a job. And like Ms. Rucklinger said, we're tying his hands. We hired Mr. Brown to come in here and do a job. He gave us a recommendation, and we should go. I mean, these people are from somewhere besides Muskogee, Oklahoma. They've been around the world. They've been different places where other things work. And Mayor, you always say, we need some new ideas. We need some new ideas. We need new things. And that's what they're bringing us, new things. Mr. Root and Mr. Brown. They have brought us some new things to think about. And we approved this, last year. And the money, the funding is there. Why come we can't go for it and try? That's all I can say.
Other comments? We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully,
Yes.
Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
No.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Leanne Langston,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Is this defunded?
Put it on for 3 months.
Yes, it's
Strike.
for, put it off for 3 months.
Table for
No.
3 months.
No.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number, where are we at? 8, 19, 20.
Discuss and take action on fiscal year 2015-2016 funding for the vacant position of Administrative Service Director.
This is also the item that I had sat on as well, and it is regarding the discussion that we were just having regarding both positions. This is the second position, and my feelings are not drastically different on this one. I guess if you would look at the organizational chart that I handed out to you, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 departments that report to this position. So I guess I feel a little different in this regard. My first thought was to push this opportunity for funding back on this, but I guess I would withdraw that thought that we could move forward with it. Okay, we have how many people? One person that has signed up to speak to this position as well. Do you want to have discussion first or listen to the input? Teresa Rutlinger, you had signed up to speak to item number 20, Administrative Services Director position.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. You have just mentioned that you thought Mr. Root needed to be here for 3 months, become a member of the team. Mr. Brown has been here for more than 3 months, way more than 3 months. So I think that he needs an assistant city manager or the administration services director, however you want to word it. It's always a good thing to have somebody that can, share the load. Things are happening very, very quickly in Muskogee, and it would help his burden a little bit, and maybe let him do some of the other things that we're asking of him without stretching himself so thin.
Okay. Is there comments or discussion regarding this position?
Did you say you were withdrawing?
I don't know. That's where I'm kind of headed with that thought.
I'll move
I'm
to
not making it in
strike
terms
then.
of a motion, but you moved to strike?
Yes,
Okay.
Does that mean he can go ahead and hire somebody?
yes.
Second.
Good move, Mayor.
Motion in a second.
Good move, Mayor.
And we need to vote on it. Is that correct, Roy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion to strike, and we have a motion in a second.
Yes.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor James Gully,
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries.
Mayor, before you go to number 20, I need to be excused. I'm sure I have a
Yes.
parking lot full of kids that are ready to travel.
You had said 8 o'clock.
Yes.
You've done us
I-
20 minutes extra.
Yeah.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
we'll get you for overtime.
All right.
All right,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Thank you. Where are we at? 21. Okay, item 21.
Discuss and take action on utilizing the professional services of Retail Attractions LLC for fiscal year 2015-2016.
Again, this is an item that I'd asked to put on. It's Retail Attractions contract for the upcoming year potential. I think we have had a degree of success in the past year, actually 2 or 3 years. And I'm asking for continuation of that contract. Ricky Hayes is here if we would like to ask questions or make comments for him to speak on. But I'm asking that we allow the city manager to negotiate a contract with Retail Attractions for the upcoming year up to $48,000, and to build into that contract the number of reporting periods of every other month to council and executive session. And I would move in that regard as a motion.
Before I go to second, Mayor, can I ask a question, and maybe for the city manager? In 15, it says the non-exclusive agreement, Part C, it says that cannot be engaged in other cities and yada, yada, yada. Is there any kind of teeth to that in case Mr. Hayes kind of moves to another community that we think is in a conflict? What's our actions if we see that happening?
Well, that's a city attorney question.
Okay, well, that's fine.
But I can.
Since you're going to negotiate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can just say that we need to probably clean that section up to ensure that, you know, we don't have, not saying that the consultant would do that,
Okay.
you know,
As long
do
as it's
something
all-
inappropriate, I guess. But anyway, long and short, I think we can clean up that in the contract.
Okay.
Well,
Deputy Mayor, under the contract, if that were to happen, we have the option to declare a breach and cease future payments.
Okay, I was just wanting to know if there was something in that agreement. Okay, I'm good.
That's in the current agreement, right, that you'll be renegotiating for this
Yeah,
year?
we probably just need to also add some clarity on reporting and that kind of thing, just to, because I know that there were some concerns last week about designee, the word designee that was used, Councilor Gully brought up, but we can work through that.
Okay.
We're gonna work with the consultant, but we need to make sure that the contract is a little bit more tighter, and the standards or expectations are done up front.
Okay.
Now, in the contract, it states that he talks to you, right?
That's
In the
correct.
last one. And I understand from last meeting that there was some questioning on him reporting or visiting with you and making sure that you're involved in the business side of what he's doing for us. If that doesn't occur, then what happens in that aspect? City attorney?
It's still a breach of contract.
Okay, so how do we determine that that was a breach of contract? How do we know that he's not contacting him enough or talking to him enough? I mean, what determines that?
There'd have to be some findings, and then the city council would have to make a declaration that the contract was breached.
Is there a written report or is it oral?
No, it's a written report.
One-
It can be improved. It just tells the number of calls made monthly, who they've contacted in the city and that type of thing.
And how often do you get that?
We get it every time. That's part of the invoicing of the actual, his invoice. He's required to provide that with his invoice.
And you get the report once a month and pay him once a month, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Then my second question is as Mr. Root being our economic development for the city, he's our employee, and Mr. Hayes being the economic development that we're contracted with, that's our teamwork issue that we're having. We need them to work together to move our city forward, correct?
Oh, that's correct. I mean,
Okay. Is there something in our contract, in our future contract, that's going to dictate that?
we can, when we get together, Roy and I, we'll put together a contract that kind of covers all the bases that I'm hearing here, because we definitely need the new department and retail attractions to work well together to, get things going in the city. And so the relationship, the dynamics is going to change slightly, but it's going to still get to where we need to get to in terms of providing economic development. But there needs to be some changes on the way we're doing business right now.
So when we direct staff to negotiate the contract and everything, we can expect some of these things that people have pointed out?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I
Be
think we said we were
included.
going to bring it back, Roy.
That's correct.
We were just going to negotiate it and then bring it back for council approval. And so you'll be able to see what we end up with. And so you'll be able to see on your own, and we'll be able to talk through any issues.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there other discussion? Teresa Rutlinger had signed up to speak to this item, number 21, retail attractions. Your name and address, please, and you will have 5 minutes to address this item.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. Under the Director of Economic Development's purpose and classification, it says that he supervises retail development consultants and vigorously seeks out new businesses for the city, if that clears up anything for the questions that have been asked. I want everybody to go and put politics aside, put friendships aside. We're a city, and we need to be run as a business. We've got a contract here that specifically says that Mr. Hayes is to report, and notices shall be made by consultants to city's representative, and it specifically says Howard Brown. I've talked to some directors, and they went and said, well, It also goes and says designated city personnel. I don't know, any of the meetings I've been to, nobody has been designated city personnel. I don't know if this is if Mr. Brown cannot make a meeting and has somebody go in his place or whatever, but I'd like that to be clarified a little bit if anybody ever did designate a city personnel on this. Having been involved in businesses myself, when I write a contract, I expect somebody to go by the letter of the contract. This is not a lengthy contract. It's about 4.5 pages long. There wasn't anything that got buried in this contract. I don't think anybody's intentionally maybe done anything, but we haven't enforced it either. I don't know what kind of report Mr. Hayes is giving. You said he's listing phone calls. Well, is it what they discussed and, you know, things like that? Usually if I'm paying somebody, I want to know a little bit more than just I made X amount of phone calls to so-and-so and so-and-so. It doesn't have to be in big detail, just, you know, discussed location, you know, development location in Muskogee or talking about restaurants coming in or something along that line. I have a bit of a problem with this kind of self-monitoring yourself as to whether you think that you've got a conflict of interest or not. I think the city should be the one that decides whether it's a conflict of interest. I feel like it's the fox guarding the hen house. Maybe that's just me being a little bit pessimistic or something, but when you're in business, you've got to, you know, you got to protect yourself, protect the city. I think you need more bite and more consequences in this contract if it's not followed. I would hate to see you just renew this as it is. I think, like you've already mentioned, you'll go ahead and do, you know, get some more advice on making it a little bit stronger. And I don't, if we're having a little bit of a problem, maybe one didn't know that. I don't know how to word this. I know when you're new to something, it's like buying a new house. You've got to live in it for a while to, you know, figure everything out. So I could see maybe where there's maybe not the gelling that needs to be done right now, and it's going to take a little while for everybody to figure out where their places are. It's you know, specifically written out in some of these contracts that might clear up some of the problems, but I would hope that if you do decide to renew the contract, you're going to make a bigger bite in it, maybe do it for 6 months. That way, if Mr. Root, once he gets on his feet and you go and prove, you know, somebody for him, if he feels that we need to get somebody, Mr. Hayes has this pond that he's working with, we get somebody else that maybe has a different pond, that might broaden our horizons and our development for this city. Just a suggestion. Once again, I have nothing against Mr. Hayes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hayes, do you have any comments regarding the questions that have been made or comments that have been made?
Mayor and Council, it's a pleasure to be with you. I've enjoyed working with each and every one of you. There's only one pond, and we're in competition with every other city in the country for the retail pond that exists. Have absolutely no problem working with Mr. Brown. He's got a monthly report.
Cannot hear
Pull
him.
that mic up to your...
I have no problem working with Mr. Brown at all, or Mr. Root, for that matter. Howard gets a report. He gets it probably on the second or third of the month that lists not only phone calls, but meetings and conference calls and contacts with various and sundry retail and restaurant clients. One thing to be considered, and I'll trust Mr. Tucker's wise and eloquent and very educated opinion here, but as soon as Mr. Brown gets that contract or the report, it's a public record item at that point. And so we're specifically, you know, I'd recommend that we do the in-depth reporting in an executive session scenario like you proposed in the contract. If, you know, we didn't have dozen or so retail deals working that fit many of the gap categories that the city needs to fill, I'd say, you know, you might consider going a different direction. But we have those retail deals working. They're actively working. Mr. Garvin knows they're working. We deal with his office on a regular basis. I'm available to every counselor 24/7. I do sleep a few hours a night. If I miss you, I'll call you back. And it's been a joy to work for you. You've got a ton of stuff going, and I think we need to keep the momentum going. As I said, I have no problem working directly or indirectly with anybody that's designated that we work with. But there are some issues of confidentiality and expertise. It's one thing to have the authority to hold a department director's office. It's another thing to have the competence to hold it. And I've got a number of years of experience and about 25 million square feet of retail in various cities across the country that qualifies me in some state to stand here before you tonight and tell you that I think you're getting the best thing you can for the money. And I know what my competitors do, and they produce data, and we produce retail. So I appreciate you. I thank you, and be happy to serve you again if you'd approve the contract.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second, correct? Is there any more comments?
Yes, I'm wondering, Mr. Hayes, the problem I found with you are that you wasn't communicating with the city manager. And that's my biggest problem. Because like I said, you're doing most of your communicating with the mayor. And I told you, like I said, at Public Works, the mayor is the mayor. He's a figure. Just city council, just like we are.
The official report that is mandated by the contract goes to Mr. Brown, not to the mayor.
Okay. Y'all, Mr. Brown, may I ask you this question? Yeah. You and Mr. Hayes, has he reported to you? Y'all have a good working relationship?
We are business professional, and in terms of the report, he's required to provide me the report. Like I said earlier, we can improve our relationship and work on some expectations on what I consider appropriate and what the new department director will consider appropriate, but all of which can be worked out.
Absolutely.
Like I said, improve your relationship with Mr. Brown and also with Mr. Root. I'll be for you, Mr. Hayes.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully?
Yes.
Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
Yes.
Leanne Langston?
Yes.
Ivory Van?
Yes.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes. Now, don't get this yes stuff, 'cause we still got several agenda items to go.
I mean, yes.
Where are we at? We're on item number 22, Mr. Hall. You're going to need us to go yes on yours, right?
Oh, sure.
Good.
Consider, let me read it.
Oh, yes.
Consider approval of an amendment to City Council Policy 7-1, Purchasing Manual, Section 1, Authority to purchase or take other necessary action.
Councilman Hall.
Okay. Mr. Tucker has something he would like to hand out.
How many more handouts am I going to get at the last minute?
Well, and while he's handing this out, I'll go ahead and talk. This has been bothering me for a while, and I've talked to another councilman about this and he shed a little bit more light on it than what I had. And my biggest concern was that there was a open PO basically for directors and the city manager and everybody to use this $25,000 without bringing it before the city council or getting certain things approved with us. I looked over this, and I don't think that we should change the $25,000 so much to allow because the city, the department heads have certain machinery and equipment that they have to purchase, and this kind of gives them a little leadway to do that without having to come up here and bring us 40 million POs and get it approved. But what I would like to see is that we put a clause in here that you're going to read that basically says that you cannot enter into a contract, an agreement, a contract with a consultant or an advisor without bringing it before city council and use this money for that. Basically, the department heads and everybody can still purchase machinery, equipment, things that they need to perform their daily job, but what it stops is the continued spending of money to say Erskine Howard or whatever it's called. And I don't think that we should continue, without it coming before the city council and us approving a contract or something with that individual to offer consulting for our city or our city manager or whoever, or any other department head. I think it needs to come before us and let us agree on that. I don't think we could just continue to pay people almost $20,000 out of this fund and sit here and not do something about it. That's the part of this that I want to change. You can't get a consultant and you can't use this money to call someone up and ask them for advice on your job and stuff without bringing it before the city council and getting it approved. That's the only part of this that I want to alleviate out of being spent out of $25,000 leadway. I would like to have all consultants need to be brought before the city council, and that's where I want to come with this.
So you're talking about D, professional services?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was going to get to. Is that what that is? That's the item?
Yes.
That's
Professional service
the only thing
expenditure,
that's been changed?
regardless of amount. So what changed about it? Anything, or is that just an addition?
That's an addition.
That's an addition.
Okay.
So is all professional service expenditures well-defined so that it doesn't have to be delineated anymore here? Or is that?
It has a common meaning within our ordinances, particularly those relating to purchasing, not the policy, but the ordinances. And also, if there's any confusion there, we do have state law that we can use as guidance, particularly the Central Purchasing Act, which does not apply to cities, but it is a useful document for us to go to if we have some issues that require interpretation.
Okay, because Councilman Hall specifically talked about consultants. Are there any other definitions for that you wanted
Basically,
included? Or?
Anything where one of our employees goes out and asks for, where we're going to have to pay for it. Like if you call a contractor and we got to pay him a consulting fee to talk about building a building, we enter into an agreement with those guys. There's certain, and I think there's certain people that are skating around that by using this $25,000 to use a consultant without bringing it before us and getting a contract or an agreement with us. And I would like to see that changed where the $25,000 is only for equipment and tools or something like that, where it's working within our city, like a truck or something like that, or an engine repair or something like that. Not where we're using a consultant to use this money for consultants without bringing it before the city council.
I'd like to ask a question or two in this regard. Are you finished, Ms. Langston? Okay. I'd like to ask Mr. Stewart and Mr. Brown, is this cumbersome in some way that's going to create a problem that we're not paying attention to potentially in tightening this up? I'm thinking
I'll
of
go
an
first.
engineering service or a
I'll
traffic study service or something like that.
I'm just going to say that, we are right now reviewing all of our purchasing policies based on some things that have occurred over the last 6 months or so. And I have Donnie Wembley and the department directors looking at how do we revise our procurement policies to make it cleaner, to make it better, to make it more transparent. And in terms of professional services, we do a lot of that here at the city. I mean, I can tell you right now, I can name 5 consultants here locally that we use where we've spent millions of dollars through that process.
Do we have a contract with them?
We don't have a contract. I mean, it's just we pick up the phone and we've called and said we need some kind of survey or we need them to come in and do some kind of something. I mean, it happens. I don't know if you'd be tying our hands or not, but if it's an amount, I mean, it depends on what the amount is what would tie our hands. That's really what it comes down to is the amount. But I mean, it's city council policy, so I'm required to
I
enforce
think in
it.
a lot of ways, one, it can be huge. I mean, from elevators to service to you're talking about a big thing. But I think it's a good point of, in a lot of these things, we do need services a contract to protect ourselves. And they need to be reviewed by legal, but a lot of times you're just signing those tickets and you don't know what you're signing off on. I don't know how many times legal is not reviewing these and somebody out in the field is just signing off.
Until there's a problem.
Until there's a problem. And so I think it needs to be looked into more of what are the ramifications. Because one, I think it's a very good point. This does need to be done. Because I think there's a lot of things that we're doing professional services now that should be being reviewed by legal, that's not being reviewed by legal, but a city employee signing off on it, and they're trapping us.
Mr. Stewart, is there some specific issues that you would see this would be cumbersome to deal with in the day-to-day operation?
The last time we passed the purchasing manual, we amended it. I didn't think it through as well as I would have liked to, and there's some things that I would probably commented on. To answer your question, I would need a little more time to review it, to really think about what you're asking me, because day-to-day operations in public works is different. I never know what scenario is going to face me. A good example is when the Court Street Viaduct got hit, and we did have a contract with a bridge inspector, but that bridge inspector didn't do fracture critical bridges. So we had to go out and find somebody that did fracture critical, which was outside our boundaries. So to answer your question, I would need to think about it and review it a little bit.
Well, if the counselor is amenable to it, can we come back next month? Because right now the policy has been circulated to the department heads to review it, and maybe we can try to incorporate all of that in that policy and bring it back to the council for action. It's got to be approved by the city council. And,
maybe where I want to go with this is more so, and I'm just going to be blunt, with this Erskine Howard thing. $20,000 has been spent on these calls and these communications. I'm trying to figure out why we're spending $20,000 on this for.
yeah, I can respond to that, Counselor.
Okay.
I've been here a year and a half, and he's one of the consultants that I retain to help me with the procurement and purchasing of the city. If you recall, when I came on board with the city, our purchasing manager had not been at work, and so there was no one really that understood our purchasing policies. I mean, we had an employee there that did a fine job for us, but I needed someone to help me look at the policies to see if they made sense. If you recall, I moved on to putting together 2 contracts. The first contract is with the MLK Community Center. It's a construction manager at risk contract, a lot different than what we've done before. And we've never done that in the city. And the JDC, Juvenile Detention Center, construction manager contract. So I got assistance to do that. That person also reviews and do due diligence on all of the stuff that goes on through those progress meetings with the contractors and those kinds of things.
So why can't we add to that and put a contract in place so we know what we're getting?
Yeah, well, that's
and how much we're paying per hour and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that way, we know what we're getting as a city council. Right now, the only contact is you and him. And we take whatever emails or whatever you send to us from him and type up or whatever he does for us. I would like to see a contract that says this is what it's for, and still using the $25,000 purchasing deal and basically let us know what we're getting.
Yeah, and we can do that, Counselor. That's not an issue at all. This person won't be working any longer because they're at the $25,000 mark. And once we get this last minute thing wrapped up with the Juvenile Detention Center, that'll be the end of that. And if that helps you any. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I'd like to have the opportunity to bring it back to you and really flesh out all the issues so we can focus on that.
So what kind of time frame are we looking at to do
Well, Donnie Wembley provided the department directors at our last staff meeting a copy of that purchasing manual, and I was hopeful that he would have it. we'll have comments back from departments, and we'll have it on the agenda sometime in July.
Okay. It's just been concerning me for a long time, and I figured this was the best way I could address it.
Yeah, well, it's a concern for me too, Counselor. I mean,
Because honestly, I didn't know who was running our city, Erskine Howard or you, at points. And I hate to say that to you like that, but I didn't, because I seen some of the emails that he sent,
yeah.
and it bothered me. So I'm just going to throw it out there. What it is what it is. And I want it done. And I would like for it to stop, but if you need a contract, I'd like to see what we're going to get for our money instead of it just being sent a check being sent to him for whatever he's doing for you. That's my whole point. That's the bottom line and what I put this on here.
Well, if we can.
Well, and I was under the understanding, once we had a team at the Martin Luther King Center that was moving forward on the job, and right now we have inspections. I'm at the meetings. We have Donnie Wembley at the meetings, and yet we've got delays on that project waiting on Erskine.
Well, I'll have to check into that, but I can tell you that
he as soon as the contract was done, he wasn't supposed to be involved in that project, is what the council was told.
Well, let me say this, and let me respond this way, Counselor. Gene Travell has been on staff about 6 months now. Is it, how long you been with the city? And Donnie Wembley was hired back in December. And so we have not had anyone staffed in this city to address those kinds of progress meetings and those kinds of things. And when I told the city council, and I know that, you should know more than I.
Well, he's never been on the phone.
Yeah.
But he's receiving all the paperwork and holding it up.
Well, he's
that
checking.
Needs to be correct.
And we will, and we will address it. But I have him looking at the contract to make sure that we're following the contracts. And, if it's him or someone else, we still need that skill set in the city. And I understand and appreciate your comments.
But and that's why I held off on the time frame. That's part of the delay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So do we need a motion in that regard in some way?
I would make a motion that we request that we look into professional services and request that it be brought back in a month with recommendations from staff of how we would implement this.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 23.
Consider approval of a resolution creating an economic development planning task force, establishing membership and duties, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Brown.
Mayor and Council, I'm focused on so many things right now.
Are you getting some direction?
I am getting some direction. This position or this task force, we've talked about it before. Several meetings ago, we talked about the need to have a retail development advisory group, and I think the discussion went into including citizens and those kinds of things. And quite frankly, I don't think we really thought through how it would look. And so Councilor Langston and we have spoken several times. I don't want to say couple or maybe several times about the need for an advisory task force of some sort to bring focus on retail development and downtown development specifically. As you know, she has a passion for ensuring that we have downtown things to occur. So does most of the council. And so what I wanted to do was put together like a task force comprised of several stakeholders that have interest in downtown. It includes county commissioners that are interested, and there's a list of other stakeholders that we would like to have there. Now, this is something that I'd like to set up in terms of meeting with these folks and bouncing things off of them and getting some kind of ideas on what we can do in downtown, working in concert with the new department. And Counselor, if you could fill us in on some of the details here.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have asked for this for quite some time. My primary focus at this point is on the downtown area. I think we know that is well past due. And so what I wanted here was an economic development task force comprised of city councilors, one from each ward, county commissioner, Downtown Muskogee Incorporated board members, and people from the AIM Great Communities. And then having ex officio staff members, Don Root, Mike Stewart, Gary Garvin. I have talked to all of the people that I think would be excellent on this task force. And since all of them have agreed, I'm going to go ahead to serve if this is developed. I'm going to go ahead and give those names. I would be representing Ward 1, James Gully, Ward 2, Derek Reed, Ward 3, Marlon Coleman, Ward 4. Ken Doak has agreed to serve as the county commissioner. Jeffrey Parra and Wayne Johnson have agreed to serve as Downtown Muskogee Incorporated board members, and they are currently president and vice president. And Doug Walton has agreed to serve with the AIM Great Community Committee. I think that what we need right now in order to get going on downtown is we need to focus on downtown. And that's what I want this group to do. It is all about the economic development, but primarily targeted right now to just the downtown area, developing retail downtown. This is why I was talking earlier about the RBE position, that we may need some additional help, because this is something that I think will fit right into the department that has just been formed. I think there's a lot that can happen, and I'm really looking forward to working together, so I hope that everyone will support the development of this task force. Answer any questions if anybody has any.
How do you pick the task force?
Pardon?
How do you pick the task force?
I selected one from each ward, and then talked to the people that I knew had talked to me numerous times about downtown Muskogee and have been passionate about it for a long time. Any of those are subject to change, you know, and these are going to be open meetings if we develop this, because we do have a large representation from the city council. But that's kind of how I selected it, but I think everybody is going to be involved. That was the purpose, was to get all of us involved, and we wanted each ward considered.
Well, I think James Gully for Ward 2 is a great pick. He's a mentor, he's mature, he's a great guy.
I defer to you, Dan.
Nice yellow shirt too, sir.
So I move that we accept the Economic Development Task Force.
Second.
The motion and a second. Is there discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 24.
Discuss citizen attendance at the Mayor's State of the City as hosted by the Greater Muskogee Area Chamber of Commerce, and if necessary, take appropriate action.
Councilman Van.
Yes, I brought this item up at Public Works this past Tuesday, and I've also brought it up last year. I went to, I was curious. I've been in the State of Cities before I became a councilman, and I had a problem with the citizens not being allowed to go. So I had a meeting with the treasurer at the chamber, me and Derek. We didn't get anywhere there. I had a meeting with the board. Mayor, you told me last week to get with the chamber board. I'd done that last year. I got with those and didn't have any results from that. Came here to Public Works and brought it to Public Works from Reverend Coleman, Councilman Coleman. He told me to pass it off and we'll do it again. It was a motion made to rethink it. So that's what we're doing. So I brought it back again to Public Works Tuesday, and it was discussed, and it was kind of rudely tabled or dismissed. And I thought that was very rude, the way it was dismissed. So I'm bringing it back again tonight. To me, the state of the city should be done by our mayor for all our citizens here in Muskogee, Oklahoma. So I put some figures together. Right now, as a city, we have 51 employees that goes to the state of the city. that cost us $1,020. To be a member of the chamber, it costs the city of Muskogee $392 a year to be a member. Okay, so as a councilman and all the councilmen up here, we have to go to our state of the city that we work hard. Like right now, we're gonna be here late. We gotta work hard up here, and we gotta pay to go hear Mayor Corbin do the state of the city for the chamber. So today, I've done some checking. Owasso city manager gives the state of the city. Chamber of Commerce puts on the event. It's open to the public. You notice what I said, the city manager does the state of the city for Owasso. Broken Arrow, the city manager gives the state of the city. Chamber of Commerce puts on this event. It's not open to the public. Lawton, the mayor gives the state of the city. Chamber puts on this event. Mayor makes a speech to the council first. He makes a speech to the council first. And this event is free to the public. So my concern here is, Roy, I'm going to ask you this question. We as councilmen, we go to the state of the city every year. I have a list right here. I'm going to read you the names of the people that went to the state of the city this past last year.
Mr. Van, I don't know for sure that we need the names of the people that are going to the state of the city. You've already given us a number.
I'm talking about the councilman, not the name, just the councilman. Not everybody goes to the state of the city. This is just the name of the councilman that went to the state of the city, sir. You have a problem with that? Okay. Marlon Coleman went. I think, and I mean, according to this sheet, now I'm gonna say a big if on this, if he went, okay? You got Marlon Coleman, you got James Gully.
I did not go.
You didn't go. You got Dan Hall.
I went.
Okay. You have David Jones. Did he go?
Council, we
Thought
paid,
you said you checked.
if that helps you, Council, we paid for all of the council members to go. We do that every year.
Okay, we have Derek Reed.
I was in attendance.
You was in attendance?
Yes.
And you had me. I wasn't in attendance. So, you had Marlon Coleman. Was he in attendance?
I have no idea.
Can't recall.
I don't remember.
I think he told me just a while ago he was. So that'd be one. James, Ms. Gully, you said you didn't go. Ms. Hall, you went. That'd be two. David Jones, I'm pretty sure he went. That'd be three. Derek Reed went. That's five. Now, I'd have to check with Mr. Jones for sure, but I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have missed the state of the city. He attended? Okay. My concern is the reason that Broken Arrow, I mean not Broken Arrow, but Lawton does it before their council is because they have a rule up there that if 4 council members is not a quorum, 5 is. Mr. Tucker, how does that work with the state of the city? Because we're discussing city business at the state of the city, and you have more than 4 councilmen go, that's a quorum. How does that work, sir?
It's not a discussion. It's because there's no discussion amongst the council when the event is taking place. The mayor is simply announcing what has happened. In order for there to be an Open Meeting Act issue that we're talking about, there has to be a meeting where the business of the city is discussed, and that involves action items. In this case, the mayor is simply making an announcement. The Attorney General's office has made a specific exclusion for if a majority of the council or a governing body attend a civic event, and that's essentially what this is. And so it would not be involved in it would not fall under the Open Meeting Act. Now, if there were issues where you had a number of the council members who were paired off, who were discussing the future of the city, what next things do we have on the agenda, then it could possibly run awry of the Open Meeting Act. But however, in this case, there is no violation.
Okay, that's good. Well, like I said, on this issue here, I believe all of our citizens here in Muskogee should attend the state of the city because they pay taxes. The chamber pays taxes. And I'm not trying, like I said, Mayor, you made a mention that I was trying to attack the chamber Tuesday. I'm not trying to attack the chamber. I just think all our citizens deserve to go to the state of the city at the Civic Center. I understand the part where you got to pay, and it's a fundraiser for the chamber. we up here tonight working free, and they getting the fundraiser of them. I have a problem with that, sir. I just have a big problem with that.
Counselor,
Okay,
can I make a
are you
suggestion?
making a recommendation for us to do something as a city? Because we're not talking about chamber business. We're talking about city's business. So are you recommending that we have a state of the city address?
I make a motion.
We have three speakers.
I make a motion. We're in a budget crisis right now, so I would make a motion that, you know, because I don't know how it relates to city. This is really a chamber event, but I do think we can, you know, listen to this advice and see how it can impact our budget. I make a motion that at the chamber event, that because of our financial situation, that we as city councilors, if we are going to be in attendance at the chamber event, that we pay for ourselves this year.
Second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Discussion on that item?
Unfortunately, Mayor, I don't think that is something that would fall under this agenda item. I'm happy to put it on the next.
If you would.
Absolutely, absolutely. But this relates to citizen attendance and how to increase that, so.
Okay.
I think we're
but
kind
I
of
will
taking this out of
certainly-
context as far as the whole subject matter. And I just apologize for disagreeing. We make it seem like it's not open to the public. Anyone that wants to purchase a ticket can go, so that's open to the public. And I'm just missing what this normal citizen comment means. It's open to anyone that wants to attend. So I think we kind of, you know, I'm not really understanding where we're going with this.
Well, and it's put on the TV, but I think it is a good point. You know, we need to pay our own way, and in this budget crisis, it's a good point. So if we could
Councilman-
have it on the next agenda.
Well, we have 51 more employees that the city has to pay for. I mean, we have 51, the department heads, are they gonna do the same thing? What I'm trying to say is, and don't try to push it off tonight, don't try to play me tonight. What I'm trying to say is that I believe the state of the city should involve everyone, every citizen, every child, every 40,000 people here in the city of Muskogee should attend this state of the city. When you go to that civic center and you got the chamber sitting on the floor with the Rotary and the other Georgia Pacific, OG&E, all the organizations that sat on the floor, that paid the money to eat the meal. I understand that. I have no problem with that. My problem is when you have a stadium seating around an arena and it's empty, and you have citizens that pays taxes that could be coming and listening to the mayor do the state of the city. I have a problem with that.
This is not city council business.
That's not city council's business?
Hold on for the discussion, please. I'm gonna get a clarification. I mean, we're not talking about the city's business. We're talking about our impact on going to a chamber and event.
We're talking about a chamber event.
They can hold any event they want. Come on. So we either need to talk about the city's business, and you're gonna recommend something that says we're gonna do it as a city, or we need to move on to the next subject.
I'll make a suggestion.
Now, if you're making that recommendation, okay.
I'll make a suggestion. I know. Goodness, guys, listen, let's do this. You know, I have spoken with members of the chamber, and I know that I think public participation is what you're trying to accomplish. Why don't we just settle down for a minute, okay, and work and see if the chamber, because I spoke with the president. She told me that they would be open to coordinating a state of the city for us. And we could do that at the Civic Center, we could do that somewhere else, you know, where it could be at a time where residents could come and the mayor could come there. But the chamber's event is a private event for their membership, and which is a separate issue than what we need to discuss here. And so if you would be amenable, I'd like to be the conduit to talk between you and Ms. McKenzie to see if we could put together something that they could help us market and manage the state of the city at a time where our residents can come in. I think the mayor would be amenable to coming and giving a presentation in the state of the city. There's no doubt in my mind he'll be there. Right, Mayor? Mm-hmm. All right. And I think that we can all get to the point where our residents get to hear the state of the city, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. They're going to help us. They would like to help us, and they've told me that. They said they were open to it. And I'd like to set up a meeting where we can work out the details. Would you be amenable to that?
Yes, I'll be amenable to that.
Okay.
Okay, we've got three people that would like to speak to this item, and then I'd like to get some input from the former mayor as well. Teresa Rutlinger, name and address, and you have 5 minutes. This is an agenda item.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. Once again, my proposal is go ahead and let the chamber do what they want to. It's at 12 o'clock. A lot of people can't get off. VA people just have half an hour for lunch, so even if they wanted to go, it's not feasible for them. Have something in the evening where people can take their family. The high school and junior high children can go and learn a little bit about what's happening in our city, you know, how we're progressing and maybe some of the little pitfalls that we're having. But I think if you made it an evening thing, I don't know if a weekend would work, but something where families can attend, or at least those that work, majority of the people that work, I mean, not night shift people might not be able to, but open it that way maybe. And you'd already made a comment, Public Works, Mayor Coburn, that you wouldn't mind saying it twice, so we'll take you up on it.
Well, one of the things we talked about is spreading out the date a little bit, because there's so much going on. You could, in a 6-month period of time, it could be a almost totally different subject
Right.
of update.
But, you know, I think if you made it an evening thing, you might get a better turnout and
Okay.
you wouldn't have the problem with, you know, it's the best of both worlds in my mind. You'd get the compromise that possibly we need tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rutling. Dean Swan and Sylvia Swan, did you all decide between the two of you, one of you would speak and one of you would not? Okay. I thought maybe on the earlier comments you could reconsider that. Whoever would like to go first. Sylvia, 5 minutes. Give us your name and your address, please.
I'm Sylvia Swan, 727 Capitol Place, Muskogee. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I was in a hurry when I was typing, and I hit the wrong key when I was addressing the letter, so I will correct that and give you corrected copies if I need to do that, or, but please, it was not, I didn't catch it until I got here. Anyway, I would like to read the letter. Dear ladies and gentlemen et al., may I express my deepest appreciation in the concurrent dialogue and the placement for consideration of agenda item number 24. I am happy to see it on the agenda. Agreeably, public participation by invitation is critical in view of the city's success. It is with respect to this discussion I submit my following comments. Last week at the finance meeting, I commented on the feeling, in quotes, of disconnection between our spending council, our operating council, and our local Muskogee Chamber of Commerce, and we citizens in common. The concern was addressed, and I hope we are going to move forward in the spirit of community-wide involvement, not defeated, but confirmed. I'm having trouble reading this. I'm so sorry.
No.
I am happy to lend my time to assisting in encouraging our local citizenry by visiting locations, managing a clipboard, and canvassing wholeheartedly an opportunity for all citizens to be participatory in the presentation of our most important Mayor's State of the City address. The options are endless for public opportunity and, as discussed last week, public anticipated. Many times we complain, but effective change requires participatory action. I recall the issue of our national flag flying at the Civic Center. Mayor Hammonds and the City Council members recognized the passionate concern of Muskogee citizens, and hence our flag flies high and proud at the with the then council support and action. I clearly understand not all citizens are either able to attend and/or city officers may have concerns investing in an opportunity with potentially embarrassing poor embarrassing poor turnout. It is with this in mind and the proven result from my past experience, I would like to assist in a positive move forward toward unity and cohesiveness for the city, so blessed with diversity and fervor. I also am grateful when a council member, citizen, entertains an option of inclusivity. AIM is demonstrating fervor by moving along and is gaining momentum, respect, and is well supported citywide as it provides a citizen plan. This concept contributes much in the community in all aspects. I realize there are many projects which need help desperately, i.e. child care centers for working mothers, drug rehabilitation programs, parental counseling on child abuse, halfway facilities for unwed teenage mothers, various projects for the aged, and education and housing. All our hands are busy and no affront is intended. In closing, I thank Councilman Van for such diligence in an obvious effort to bring his constituents to the table and encourage involvement. I am happy to lend a hand to assist in garnering the required momentum to accomplish an opportunity for this positive involvement for all concerned in a democratic outcome while stirring camaraderie and confidence in our governance and community relationships. Most sincerely, Sylvia Swan. And so in that last couple of seconds that I have left, what I'm trying to say is that at the farmers market, we have such a varied number of people. If the state of the city were published in a written format and could be handed out to citizens where they may not be able to watch the television, as I've mentioned before, they may not have cable. They may not be able to afford buying the newspaper. They may not be able to find time off work to go to an event. There are many citizens that work and they don't want to have to go with their work clothes to an event. They'd rather go home. By the time they get done and ready, they're not able to attend either, or they have children to care for. So what I'm saying is that I think that at some point we could come to some type of an arrangement where more people could be included, and I would be more than happy to assist in any way that I can through any of the resources that I am at. Thank you.
Yeah. Mayor, let me say something really quick, because I snickered here earlier, and I want Ms. Swan to know that it was because Pam Bates was dealing with a timer issue up here. It wasn't because of what you said, so I just want to make that clear for the record. Thank you.
Dean Swan, you had signed up to speak to this item too, sir. Don't sneak by without giving us your address and all that stuff.
Marvelous. Good evening. My name is Dean Swan. I live at 727 Capitol Place, Muskogee, Oklahoma. I want to support Ivory Van's pursuit of this agenda item. But what I'm seeing here in front of my eyes, from my perception, is what I deem as convoluted rationale. This is not a chamber discussion. This is a City of Muskogee discussion. He's asking for the State of the City address to be given to the citizens of Muskogee duly by a gift from the the City Council. That's got nothing to do with the Chamber of Commerce, other than the fact that a lot of us citizens view that the Chamber of Commerce has absconded with the State of the City address and has removed it from the citizens, and it no longer belongs to us. Yes, I can purchase a ticket. I don't want to have to purchase a ticket. I'm paying taxes on my house. If you put the price of the ticket on my tax on my house, then I'll understand. But I'm already
Be sure
paying.
to send that check when you pay that to the city now, not the county.
So I don't think it's necessary for me to pay to have to hear my State of the City address. I feel that it can be added to or interceded with other events like the Azalea Parade or the Chili Cook-Off or any other things, a Veterans Day Parade, whenever the timing allows it to be incorporated with another event. I would love to see the mayor's presentation. He gives a dynamite presentation of the state of the city. I'd love to see the rest of the citizens enjoy it as a city event, not a privately absconded event belonging to the citizens. So it is not a Chamber of Commerce issue. It's an issue where hopefully the City Council will figure out a way that they can present the State of the City address to the citizens of Muskogee, one way or the other, and not let the Chamber of Commerce abscond with it solely to themselves. If you have to have two, so be it. If you can do it all with one, that's even better. But I would rather you leave out the Chamber of Commerce than to leave out the citizens. That's just my convoluted rationale for myself. So when I see the attempts from Councilman Van to explain the necessity of the City Council to create a State of the City event for the citizens and quickly get pulled into this is incorrect, it is a Chamber of Commerce event. We're not talking about here at the City Council. No, it's not. We're talking about the citizens of Muskogee having a State of the City address directly to them from the mayor and the City Council. It's not complicated. So I hope nobody continues to make it any more complicated than it is. I'm sure I could get another 100 people to go with me next year, or even this year, because we got a lot of good news. I'd like to share it with my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swan. Where does that put us? Where are we at? Mayor Hammonds, give us a comment or two on the state of the city.
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, every year that I was here, when I was mayor for 4 years, I gave the State of the City address. Every year, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, then Sue Harris, called and would invite me every year about September and asked if I'd be willing to give the address this year. I always said yes, happy to give the address to anyone who would want to listen. I've got to say, I think Councilman Van's suggestion of having a city function is a good idea. I'd love to see the mayor give 2 addresses a year, because it is hard to kind of put everything in that we do in 1 year in a single speech. So I'd love to see the councilman's idea come to happen, like some type of spring update associated with the Azalea Festival, and we have a lot of people. People come to these events. I think that'd be a great time for the mayor to do it. But every year I enjoyed giving it. It's a good opportunity for people to come together and hear the vision of the city. It's a good event, and happy to do it every year. And so happy to answer any questions about when I did it and how it all worked. But every year the chamber would call me, ask me, invite me to do it, and happy to do it, just like every other organization in the city would call and wanted me to do a speech. I did the speech, just like I'm sure Mayor Coburn does. But it is an event that you cannot take from them, because the city has no power to take this event from them. You don't pay them to do it. They put it on themselves. If you take it from them, you might get into some trouble violating the Fifth Amendment process of just compensation. So I wouldn't recommend you go into that. But if the city wants to have its own event, I think that's a great idea. I would wholeheartedly support Councilman Van's suggestion.
Ex-Mayor Coburn. I mean, not Coburn, Hammonds.
Close.
I've been through too many mayors up here.
Yeah, it's the old man, the young man here. Come on.
Well, one thing.
You said when you done it, was the citizens, were they able to come in?
Yes, sir. That was every year when I talked to Sue Harris, I told her I would give it on the condition that it'd be open to the public, and the public could always come.
See, sir, I have no problem with that myself. I believe it should be open to the public.
It is open to the public. That's what I keep.
It's open
that's
to
what
the
I
got to pay.
No.
It's open to the
It's open
public.
to the public, you just got to pay, Albert.
It's open to the public.
Are you saying, Tyler, that it was open to the public for free?
It was open to the public in the sense that anyone could purchase a ticket and come and eat, just as Councilman Councilman Reed spoke of. But it was also open to the public in that anyone could come and listen for free. No one had to pay to come and listen. If you want it, you had to pay the ticket to buy a meal, because meals don't grow on trees. They do cost money associated with that. But if they wanted to come and listen and hear the common vision, that didn't cost any taxpayer a single dime.
The other part of that that's kind of exciting to me is that there's enough activity going on that there's a need for 2. And I agree with you totally. They want to limit me to 45 minutes.
It's not enough
I've
time.
got 2 hours worth of stuff.
It's not enough time. They did the same thing to me every year. It's not enough time.
There you go.
One thing that I think we're missing is they know it. Somebody knows a different Bob Coburn than I do. I mean, because really, anytime you're around him, you get a state of the city address. I mean,
You're saying it in a complimentary way, I guess.
Yeah, I am. Because any meeting you're at, you get a state of the city address. And, I mean, any meeting he's at, you're getting an update on where the city's at and where we're going on it. It's just, that event is a chamber event. But whether you're invited to an Optimist meeting or any other meeting, you're going to get a state of the city address. And I think it's fine to have one at the Civic Center where we want to do it. But we don't need to do one with food and everything else. We're in a budget crisis.
Yeah, and I
That's
don't
what
think
I
the
mean.
suggestion
We
has
need to
been
make
to
one
do that.
open to the public,
Cities would
but
have
it's
to.
not at our expense when we're in a crisis where employees are supposed to be first.
The other day at Public Works, the question was asked by Councilman Coleman to Mr. Brown, could the city fund such an event like this? And if I remember correctly, the other day, Mr. Johnson, I believe the city manager said that we could. I'm gonna say this. Only thing that I really love to see is the state of the city, whether we have to do two. I know the one would be for the business, the chamber, and that's okay. But let's give our citizens something also. Let's give them a piece of the meat too of Mayor Coleman's speech. Let's all get together with the citizens, our children, in the evening time, so they can come and get the feel of what it feels like to go and see the state of the city. And I believe we can afford hot dogs or hamburgers or chips and pop and pass that out, Councilman Johnson. Let's get together and do that. Let's do something for our citizens.
Mr. Brown has already said that you take care of helping foster that.
Yeah, I'll
discussion,
work with
right?
the chamber, and we'll work on a second state of the city and try to get all parties, on the same sheet of music. I think we can do that.
So, Roy,
I wasn't talking about dinner, Counselor. I wasn't talking about dinner. I mean, I was talking about, Kool-Aid and,
I'm just curious. With Treasurer?
Do we need a
Okay,
motion
what do
on
we
this
need?
item or just a staff directed is fine?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Item number 25.
Consider approval of a resolution authorizing the continuation of an account fund for the City of Muskogee entitled Solid Waste Improvements and designating the manner in which said account shall be operated for the upcoming budget year 2015-2016 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart, you got 2 minutes.
I can do it. This resolution addresses the funding for new equipment and improvements in the Solid Waste Division of Public Works. It's a continuation. It's $2.50 to each service account. We recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston. Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, and just by way of information, I turned into a pumpkin at 10 o'clock. Item number 26.
Consider approval to renew the municipal liability insurance contract with Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group in the amount of $248,235.84 for policy year July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2016, or take any other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mayor, members of the council, this is the renewal for our annual liability policy. Again, we're renewing through OMAG, which we've had for a number of years. The premium this year at $248, $235, and 84 cents is actually $23,952 less than it was last year. So I am recommending approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Best news we had tonight.
I'm thinking that too. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. 27.
Consider approval to renew the insurance contract with Wilcox and McGrath in the amount of $312,245, $689,000 for property insurance, $4,556 for crime coverage for policy year July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2016, or take other necessary action, including but not limited to approving a policy extension.
Mrs. Kingston, and she is very happy that we are working on a budget now.
Yay. This is the property insurance renewal. After it was put on the agenda, I have been talking to the insurance agent, and they actually lowered the premium by $31,164. So the total amount now is $281,081. And this is for the fiscal year 2015-2016.
If we delay it for another 2 weeks, would they reduce it again?
I can keep working on it.
Did you call him today, Gene? Did you call him today
Yes,
or
I
something?
talked to her
Okay,
today.
so after you had your,
Yes.
see, what I tell you is all negotiable.
What did you say that final amount was, or today's amount?
Today's amount is $281,081.
Thank you.
Move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 28.
Consider approval of a renewal of an agreement with Alliance Benefit Group in the amount of $39,600 for the continuation of third-party administration services for the city's workers' compensation plan, or take any other further necessary action.
Mr. Tucker again.
Mayor, members of the council, we went out for a proposal for our third-party administration services for workers' compensation. We received 7 responses. A committee was established involving Kelly Epperson, myself, Leslie Arnold, our legal secretary, and Donnie Wembley, the purchasing agent. We reviewed in 3 separate meetings all of the 5 responses that were received. We ranked them all. And I'm here to recommend a renewal with Alliance Benefit Group. They have been our carrier for the last 14 years, and even though occasionally we like to go out and see if we're getting the best deal and see what other TPAs have to offer, we are satisfied with the service that Alliance Benefit Group has provided for us and will continue to provide. So as a result, I recommend approval, and on behalf of the review committee, also recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second? Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We have one person that had signed up to speak, Carlton Horner. He is left evidently, so we will now move to 29.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following. A, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. B, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. C, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
We will now consider an executive session.
So moved.
Got a motion? And a second? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Now we will consider ourselves in executive session. Session now reconvene from executive session. Roll call.
Go get some.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Leanne Langston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Mr. Tucker.
Item 29A, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95. Since it is unlikely that a new collective bargaining agreement will be reached by the end of the fiscal year, I believe it's appropriate for a motion to be made approving approval of extending the terms of the existing CBA until the earlier of June 30th, 2015, 16, or until a new collective bargaining agreement is signed.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item B.
Pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss the negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465. After being fully briefed on status of negotiations, as with the FOP, it is unlikely that AFSCME will have a new contract reached by 6/30 of 2015. Therefore, it's appropriate for a motion to be made extending the terms of the existing collective bargaining agreement until the earlier of June 30th, 2016, or until a new collective bargaining agreement is signed.
Move for approval as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item C.
Pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57. As with AFSCME and FOP, it is unlikely that a new collective bargaining agreement will be reached by 6/30/2015. It is therefore appropriate to approve extending the terms of the existing CBA until the earlier of June 30th, 2016, or until a new collective bargaining is signed.
Move for approval as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call again.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. That concludes our agenda for today. Thanks for joining us.
MMA.
Oops, we got an MMA meeting. Okay,
Mr. Gully, you gotta have a seat.
We're not finished.
We're not finished.
hold on, MMA.
We got MMA.
My fault. Special call Muskogee Municipal Authority meeting. Welcome to it for June the 22nd. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Leanne Langston.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Item number 1.
Consider approval of a resolution approving the Muskogee Municipal Authority, Muskogee, Oklahoma budget for fiscal year 2015-2016 and establishing budget amendment authority or take other necessary action.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm recommending that you approve the MMA Muskogee, Oklahoma budget for fiscal year 2015-2016 in the amount of $12,819,280, $12,819,280.
We need a motion and a second in that regard.
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. That concludes our Muskogee Municipal MMA meeting. Thank you.